Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint-Germain family. Match week 7 of the UEFA Champions League is ahead of us. And in today's video, I thought going through every single game and giving my quick, easy prediction, plus some small details and discussions about the upcoming games. First game we got is AS Monaco versus Aston Villa. If I'm totally correct, I believe both teams are top 8 teams. Maybe Monaco dropped down to like 11th place, but both of these teams have been good in the UCL this season, somewhat surprisingly, but maybe both Villa and Monaco have had some of an easy draw as well. As I said, both are secure, so they're not fighting for qualification or knockout stages. I think Aston Villa wants to assure themselves they're going to get a top 8 place, so they don't have to play round of 32. And I believe the same thing for Monaco. And that's why I'm predicting a draw. I think both teams will be happy with the draw, especially because Monaco have to catch up a bit in the league. Same goes for Aston Villa. Next game is Atalanta versus Sturm Graz, and I mean, it should be easy. Atalanta have been, a very great side in Europe's top 5 leagues this season, both in Europe and in the league. Even in their last defeat, I think it was the Madrid game. Even that it wasn't the worst, missed a huge chance at the end. And Sturm Graz, I mean, they've been one of the whooping boys in the UCL this season so far. So I'm going with a 3-0 victory to Atalanta. Next game is Atletico Madrid versus Bayern Leverkusen. Very interesting game. I believe Leverkusen are top 8. Atletico are a bit behind. They've obviously, I think they were on a 14-15 win streak until the most recent game where they lost to the Ganes. So Atletico definitely have to put that game behind them because they're somewhere in the La Liga title race as well. So I think Atletico will be really pumped and confident to win this game. Leverkusen, they're still competing a lot in the Bundesliga. I think they're only 5 points behind Bayern Munchen with like an 11 win streak. So I don't think Leverkusen would care as much about this game as Atletico Madrid. That's why I'm going for Atletico Madrid 2-1 win at the Wanda Metropolitano, Saudi. Next up is FC Barcelona and SL Benfica, and I'm actually going to do a live watch along of this game. So this game is a game I'm interested in. FC Barcelona obviously have not been that good in the league. I think only 1 victory in their last 8 games. Abysmal. But in the UCL, Barca have been one of the best sides. I think they're sitting second in the table, only 3 points behind Liverpool. And they would want to assure as high of a place as possible to ease your draw. And I think they get more money as well the higher up you finish. Benfica, I don't really know that much about them. I do know that they're competing in the league still. I don't know how, what place they are in the UCL table, but let's go for Benfica 2-1. I don't know why. Maybe it's an agenda. But I think it's going to be a really difficult game for Barca. I think the current form they're going into with, and especially Benfica could potentially play like a lot of La Liga teams have been playing against Barca, which makes it very difficult for Barca to win those games. So that's what I'm going with. Next up is Red Star versus PSV, and I mean, I couldn't care less. I mean, I don't really know about their form, about anything. All I know is both are pretty much going to get eliminated from Champions League this season, so I just went for a cheeky 2-2. Next up is Lille versus Liverpool. Liverpool obviously sitting first, having won 6 games out of 6 games played, which is insane. Lille, on the other hand, they've been very good this season, beating the likes of Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, and I believe drew to Juventus as well. So they've been a very top side, especially against the better teams. But we've seen how French teams do in England. That goes for PSG as well. So I'm going to go for another Liverpool victory, 3-1 victory. Next up is Juventus versus Club Brugge. Away, Juventus have been a good side this season. It's just when it comes to winning games, when it's come to scoring goals, they've had huge difficulties when it comes to that. But I don't think Club Brugge would be that difficult for Juventus, and I'm going for a 2-1 victory to Juventus. Next up is Stuttgart versus Slovan Bratislava. Obviously, this is a game where me as a PSG fan I care about because Stuttgart's sitting on 7 points just as us, but they will be the team we play last. So I would love for Stuttgart to lose this game, but they're going to win it 3-1. Slovan Bratislava, I believe, haven't picked up a single point this season so far. Next up is Borussia Dortmund versus Bologna. I believe Bologna are another team who haven't picked up a single point in UCL this season. Dortmund sitting close to mid-table in the Bundesliga, doing very bad, but it's just a continuation of last season. They were very bad in the Bundesliga last season and didn't even get a UCL spot. But because of the new rule that puts German teams, two leagues gets 1 extra place depending on the coefficient, Dortmund got that place. And they've been good in the UCL so far, so I'm going with the Dortmund 1-0 victory. They will continue being good in Europe and very mid in the league. Next up is RB Leipzig versus Sporting Lisbon. Leipzig have been very, very underwhelming. I believe they also have 0 points after 6 games in UCL, which is very surprising, even though they have had so many difficult games against Atletico, Liverpool, and some other as well. Sporting, they haven't been the same ever since Ruben Amorim left the club, and it could potentially continue like that, but it's like two mid clubs against each other. Leipzig would want to get some honor back, but they're not really fighting. I don't think they can even make it. It's impossible for them. And Sporting, I mean, they've already made it through. I don't think they can get a top 8, so I think they will also be happy with a 1-1. Next up is Shakhtar versus Brest. Brest, obviously another team, surprisingly being very good in UCL this season. I think the recent game was the defeat to Barca, but they should come back in this game and beat Shakhtar 2-1. Next up is Inter versus Sparta Prague. A very interesting, no, not an interesting game at all. I think Inter would just, have those kinds of victories, just a 2-0 clean performance, not conceding any chances, and getting the 2 important goals in this game. Next up is Bayern Munchen versus Feyenoord. Bayern should stat pad. Bayern have had, I don't know, Bayern have been very weird this season, where they're like good to great, but then in some games, especially the bigger ones, they just look a bit mid. But I do think it should be easy, scraping off Feyenoord, 3-1 victory to Bayern. Next up is Arsenal versus Dynamo Zagreb, and you know how I feel about Arsenal, but unfortunately I see like a game at the Emirates. I know that Saka is still missing in Arsenal, this and that, but I think this would just be a breeze-through game. Arsenal can just go into stat pack, get some goals, and then continue battling the Premier League. Next up is AC Milan versus Girona. AC Milan always make these easy games very tough, so I think they will make it very tough, but will get the 2-1 victory, which is very needed for them. Next up, the big game. Manchester City versus Paris Saint Germain. I think I've said a lot of bunch of different predictions. I've said 2-1, I've said 3-1, I've said 2-0. I don't really know. All I know is going to win. I don't know how the game is going to go. I don't know how well are we going to perform. Are we going to get like a cheeky 2-1 or are we going to get a bigger result? But I like the 2-0 prediction I made, so I must stick with my 2-0. I mean 3-1. Same goal difference. We get a 2-0 goal difference. That's the main thing. Next up is Real Madrid versus Salzburg, and I believe this is the last game we have to predict. Madrid obviously looking very good in form, apart from the Borussia game where they just got. But Madrid are struggling a bit, so they need to get some crucial points here. And I mean, Salzburg, once again, I think they're sitting very low in the table. Should be an easy 2, maybe even more than 2, honestly. 2-0 victory for Real Madrid. Celtic versus Young Boys. Couldn't care less. I went with a cheeky Celtic there at home. Young Boys, nobody cares about them. Those are my predictions. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. And as usual, allez, Paris.